realistic.
Did you get your reserve goals?
I didn't get reserved shit.
Did you get your sub goals?
I got no goals. You know why? Because there's 10-year-olds running around the still going, oh my god, this is the best game ever. Mommy, can I have this? No, I want this one. No. Oh my god. Mommy, I want all these games. No, I want these games. No, okay.
This episode's topic: coworkers and upper management at GameStop. The way you came in, it doesn't sound like you worked with a lot of like weird coworkers or anything, because you were recruited by other people that you knew.
Mm-hmm.
When you were manager, you make it sound like you could pick the best people, not just anyone with a pulse. So,
I mean, I wouldn't say that I picked the best people. Everybody has their misses and their hits. I certainly hired a couple of people that I regret hiring. Some that were not so cut out for the job.
So, like, in those interviews, were they, like, saying all the right things, though?
Pretty much. Like,
So,
hitting all the right buzzwords, I guess. Selling themselves better than they should have. Because, at the end of the day, all you're doing in an interview is you're selling yourself.
I am no good before 11 a.m.
You're wearing tuxedos to a job that requires you to clean bathrooms.
did you ever have any coworkers that called in a lot, didn't show up?
Not at GameStop.
No? Okay. Did you have any that were, I don't know, bad with customers? Like, couldn't keep their temper?
Yeah, I had one guy at West Broad that thought he was more hot shit than he was. He did not have a very strong filter, and he had essentially no, like, I don't quite want to say social intelligence, but you know what I mean. Like, he wasn't very good at reading the room or understanding conversations, like, the best way to converse with people. So he would say some off-the-cuff stuff that would sometimes end up as being off-color stuff that I would have to reprimand him for. He was a well-meaning guy. He just didn't...
just not a good filter.
You're right. He just didn't understand how to talk with people very well. I worked with it as best I could. He eventually ended up leaving for a different company, which we were kind of thankful for.
Did you ever have to fire anyone?
I came very, very close on a couple of occasions. To date, I have never technically fired anybody. There's only one person where I was going to fire him, but because I was really nice, I'm like, I'm going to give you the opportunity just for the sake of your own, like, personal employment record to just resign. So I don't have to fire you and have that go against you. Because, he was a nice enough guy and did help out my assistant manager with getting some, like, super rare Pokemon, so he was a fan. So, like, out of kindness and out of, the good that you've done for us personally, I'm not going to fire you unless you do not resign. You can either give me your resignation or I can give you your resignation.
What was wrong with this guy?
He was just terrible at the job. He couldn't sell shit. Like, he had the worst numbers of probably any employee I've ever had to work with, and it essentially just seemed like he did not care and did not want to try. And so it's like, you are hurting my business more than you are helping it. So there was the door.
When you worked in the more ghetto locations for GameStop, anyone you hired there or were working with there that were kind of ghetto, that fit in?
Yeah, I mean, to a degree. My assistant manager who took over for me as manager when I left for West Broad, Zach, was definitely the kind of guy who knew, like, the area and the people and knew how to play to that. Like, he's a really great guy. He doesn't work for GameStop anymore. He left about a year after I did, if that. But yeah, he was the one who told me, like, you do not belong in a ghetto store. He was definitely the one who, if we got the people that were more, like...
Hood?
Yeah, hood people. He's the one who would take over those transactions, because, like, he could speak their language. He could talk to them in the way that they knew how. Like, that man, he knew the store that he was at. And, I mean, to be fair, he worked at that store his entire career. Like, from when he got hired to when he quit, that was his store. And he was good at what he did.
Yeah, let's talk about the good coworkers. Any, like, still talk to, maybe friends on Xbox, PlayStation, anything like that?
Zach is probably the only one that I still talk to, just because, I had to put up with him for a year. So he's like a rash that you can't quite get rid of. He knows that I love him. Great guy. Very fun.
Yeah.
But, God, he tortured me mercilessly the entire year that I was there. So it's almost like Stockholm Syndrome, I guess. Because there are times where I'll be like, man, I miss working with Zach. And then, like, I'll talk with him, or he'll pop into one of my streams, and I'll be like, oh yeah, that's right, you were an asshole to me. A well-meaning asshole, but an asshole.
Like, what did he do that was, like, mean, or...
So, fun fact, I don't know if I've told you before, my nickname at both GameStop and now Kroger at work is Grandma Knees, because of how bad my knees are. Zach is the one who came up with Grandma Knees. He loved torturing me about my knees. Sort of a sadistic kind of guy, but in a well-meaning way.
People ask about, did you work with any girls at GameStop?
There's a young man in here.
Excuse me, it's ma'am. It is ma'am.
I can call the police if you'd like me to. You need to settle down.
You need to settle down and mind your business, okay? Ma'am, once again, ma'am.
I said both of you.
No, you said sir. Once again, it's ma'am.
I actually said both of you guys. It was general.
Right beforehand, you fucking said sir.
Sir? Okay.
Motherfucker, take it outside. If you want to call me sir again, I will show you a fucking sir.
I apologize.
Motherfucker.
I apologize now.
I think in pretty much every store, at least at some point, I had a female employee, be it, above or below me. I mean, it was fine. They're no better or worse than any guys that I worked for. Like I said, at the end of the day, it's a sales job. And if they can sell, they can sell. When I worked at the campus store, my boss was a lady named Angela, who she taught me just about everything that I know about being a manager. Well, I had two managers who really taught me about management, about running stores, and specifically about running GameStop stores. Mm-hmm. And that was Angela from the campus store, the mall store. Those two ladies taught me more or less everything that I know.
Was there ever a stretch of time you were working at a store and there wasn't a manager there?
Mm-hmm.
And like, I don't know, like the DM or whoever kind of made you do like manager things?
Yeah.
Without manager pay?
Twice. Both of the upscale stores that I worked for, I was the assistant manager, and in both cases, the store manager who was there when I got there got fired shortly after I got there, and so yeah, I was acting store manager for a couple of weeks while they worked on getting a replacement, which, I interviewed for store manager for both stores, didn't get either one. So, one of those things that I held over my DM's head of, hey, I literally ran these stores, but you still didn't give them to me. And one of them, the non-mall store, the manager that got it instead of me ended up quitting shortly after I went to Polaris Mall. So it's like, how did that work out for you? But I digress. Yeah.
So of the managers above you, what was the worst one?
Probably the one who took over the small upscale store, the one who quit later. I won't give his name, but he was the assistant manager with me when I worked at Graceland. So he was above me there, and then I got promoted to this upscale store to be essentially like even with him. The store manager for the upscale store got fired, so he got promoted above me again to be the store manager there, and he was not fit for store manager.
Like, not responsible, not selling, not...
He had, like, very specific ideas about how things needed to be run. He was a good GameStop employee. He was not a good leader, if that makes sense.
So he would blame anything and everything on the team.
That makes him sound a little bit more malicious than he was.
Okay.
Like, he was a well-meaning guy. He was not fit to be a store leader. That's really what it comes down to. Like, being an assistant store manager is one thing. Like, yeah, you've got people who are under you, but at the end of the day, it's a store manager's job to like lead the people and be in charge of everything. You can just be like a world-class employee because you're there full-time, and that's good enough. And for him, he could do that. Like, he was a great salesman in and of itself, but being in charge of other people and being like responsible for their growth and development and helping further their careers, not his forte.
Was he older or younger than you when you were working there at the time?
I think he was like 3 or 4 years older than me. For a good chunk of my time at GameStop, I was younger than most people. For like half a year there, I was the youngest store manager, I think. I was either the youngest or the second youngest store manager for a long time.
Did people ever go and help out other stores within the district when someone was short? Were you guys at all like close? Other people in the district? Like, was there drama that would be talked about or go around?
I mean, not really. Like, obviously everybody had their quirks, and some people thought a little less favorably of others at times. Like, Zach did not like Lacey in the least bit, and I think the feeling was mutual. To be fair, when I first got there, Lacey and I did not like each other. Like, we butted heads for several months, and then...
On like how to run things in the store, or butt heads on what?
To everything. Like, pretty much everything. But then we eventually bonded over D&D, and then things just kind of smoothed out from there, and she was a big help for me when I started as a store leader. But no, for the most part, the stores in the district were all more or less a pretty good team, so we got along well. We were okay with sending people to each other's stores, or if push comes to shove, going and helping at another store ourselves. Like, I went to one of the nearby stores a couple of times when I was at West Broad to help out while they were in between managers.
Talk about, I'm sure you had a few DMs in your time. More than a few?
Technically, if you want to get technical, I had 5.
Okay.
So, the Crystal store being in the lone Minnesota store, technically I had 2. I did not meet either one of them, because the one who was in charge, I never knew either of their names. I never got their names. The one who was in charge initially was just never there. Never showed up, never talked to anybody, never responded to emails or anything. And then within the last, 2 or 3 weeks or so, I guess our store was reassigned to a different district manager or something. Again, never found out the name, never really cared, because by that time I had known that I was moving to Ohio, so I could not care less.
Right.
When I got to Ohio, the first district manager was named Nick. Cool guy. He very much played favorites. It was made apparent to me after he was gone that the reason he skipped me over for 4 store leader positions, I think, is because he never had any intention of promoting me, because I wasn't one of his favorites. So he was that kind of guy. If you are in his clique, then you will get promoted or you will get rewarded accordingly. If not, tough shit. But I mean, still a nice enough guy. He could be an asshole sometimes. But
yeah. What about the next DM?
So the one in between, and technically I think he took over for a weekend or 2 when our next guy was on vacation. His name is Jesse. Awful DM, because he was another one of those. He was non-existent. He did not answer emails or phone calls or texts. He just did not care. He was not involved, and you could ask anybody in his district, the one that he ran normally, same deal. He would never answer. His, I guess would be his assistant DM, the DM trainee. She ran the district more than he did.
So, what would he do? Just sit at home all day, or?
I don't know.
No.
No one knows. He would never answer.
Ask Jim where he's been the past few nights between 3 and 5 and 9 to 11:15. Go ahead and ask him. Ask him where he goes.
He's playing bridge out the hospital, Ray.
Playing bridge my arse. He's going down to the strip club, getting drunk every night, telling everybody he's off the booze.
Yeah.
You know why, Randy? Because Jim Leahy is a fucking drunk, and he always will be.
Randy, give me a drink. Let it go, Randy.
But then our district was given to a guy named Mark, who was fantastic. Mark is one of my favorite bosses I've ever had. And he doesn't work for GameStop anymore either. He has since resigned because of their bullshit, which it takes a lot to get a DM to quit, so if that's any indication. But yeah, really cool guy, very supportive. There was a day, I don't remember what it was, there was a day during the pandemic, shortly after we had opened, where I was having some issues with something, and I was having a really bad day. I was having a really, really bad day. And he called me, and I just let him have it. I wasn't specifically yelling at him, but I yelled at him. Like, I just unleashed all of my fury, all of my everything at him. And man just took it in stride and then was like, all right, let's work on getting this fixed. He was a fantastic boss.
Good. But otherwise, with like a lot of the DMs, were they like, I don't know, constantly like looking at your numbers and...
Yeah, I mean, that was...
You could be doing everything statistically well about one thing, and then they'll bash you on that, or...
That is the case with any DM, and unfortunately even Mark had to go with that, because, you know, the company breathes down their necks, so they have to breathe down our necks. So yeah, if your numbers weren't up, then they would have to come down on you like, hey, what's going on? You need to fix this. He was less of an asshole about it than some of the DMs that I've read about on the GameStop Reddit.
Did you ever have any DMs that recommended any shady tactic?
No. Not that I can think of.
Nothing.
Mark was very, like, one of the phrases he loved to use was win with integrity. He was very much against using shady tactics.
Good.
I don't remember too much about Nick, about how he would go about it.
The first DM you mentioned that had, like, his own clique, did they, like, come from a different company or something? Him and, like, others?
No, they had been there for a while. So It was the people that were his favorites and have been, and thus have been established as store leaders.
What about, did you ever meet anyone, like, above the DM?
Yeah.
Or even in the headquarters?
I've met a couple of high-end people. I met a regional manager who, technically we got a new regional manager after I left. I never met them, or at least if I did, I don't remember them. But I met our first one, and his name, he was so proud of his name, because, like, he literally would pull out his ID to show people the guy's name is Moneymaker. Like, his actual literal last name is Moneymaker. Cool guy. Really chill. I met GameStop's head of HR. I met head of LP. I've met...
Why'd you meet head of LP? Because, like, stuff got stolen or what?
So I've met them for a couple. I've met him for a couple of reasons. Obviously, working in the stores that I work at, they're high shrink. We would get like LP visits just to check to make sure that we're doing everything correctly and everything looks okay and we're not, like giving shit away. But at the Northern Lights store and at West Broad store, so two different stores, we got robbed at gunpoint.
While you were working?
Northern Lights store, I was working. It was a Friday night or something. It was me and a new employee. It was her third day or something. And yeah, 3 minutes before we closed, guy came in with a handgun and robbed us, which I don't remember much about it. We watched the DVR and I was apparently unflinching because my main focus was staying between him and her, making sure that if for whatever reason he pulls that trigger, the bullet goes into me and not her. He got his money and he left. I think he made off with maybe $400, but
all he took was money out of the register?
Mm-hmm. But the LP came after that, and then at West Broad, Zach was the one who got robbed at gunpoint at that store while I was off. So LP came again because of that.
Okay, so two things on that. Did the GameStop stores, AT&T, we use GroupMe, and we had a chat when people would do shady stuff like that, and we'd try and get the photo out. Hey, if you see this guy, this is what he did here. Did GameStop stores do anything like that? So technically, GameStop did not allow group chats. We still had a group chat because fuck them. But I don't know. GameStop has all kinds of issues. Their company's run by idiots. But yeah, I sent a text out in the group chat, and I sent a email to my DM hey, this happened. Problem is, this was still in 2020 when mask mandates are going on, so the dude was bundled head to toe, had a mask and hat, so you could not tell who he was. Oh.
So, as far as I know to this day, the man has never been caught. The guy who robbed us at West Broad, though, was a fucking idiot, did not have a mask on, and they caught him, later that day, I think, hiding in a dumpster. They caught him, they prosecuted him, he is behind bars.
Good.
But first guy, never caught him. Or at least if they did, I was never told about it.
So both times did they just steal cash out of the register? Or
yeah.
I don't know. You figure they'd be taking consoles or something, but that leads me to my next question. Did GameStop have any dummy consoles?
Yes. only for the like high risk stores.
Okay.
So like West Broad and Northern Lights had dummy consoles and dummy cash. Problem is the guy who that's actually probably why the second guy got caught, because he took the dummy cash. First guy only took the 20s and 10s. He did not touch the 5s or 1s, probably banking on them being, having the dummy cash, which they were. The store at that time had the 1s as the dummy cash. I changed it to some other bills. I don't remember what I changed it to, because that was a couple years ago. But seeing that was like, this guy's too smart. Having it set as 1s is only going to catch the morons, like the guy who robbed West Broad. But I don't remember what I changed it to, so neither here nor there. But yeah, they have dummy consoles in the back. GameStop has caught people with that in the past. I don't remember which store, but there was one store that someone like broke into the back and took all the consoles and got caught because of that. But yeah, those guys just came for the cash.
And then knew, or one of them knew what the good cash was and what was...
Yeah, that one guy
cash,
knew, he was very, he knew what he was doing.
So, the dummy cash... Is there a way they can track that?
Yeah. The moment it gets taken off of the... So all of the dummy cash is set on a magnetic pad in the register. The moment it gets taken off of that pad, it triggers the essentially geo-tracker. So as soon as it's picked up, they've got a lock on where he's at. So that's why, if someone robs you and they tell you to put the money in, you make sure to put the dummy cash in there. But that guy insisted on he be the one to take the money out of the registers. So, again, he knew what he was doing.
Changing gears a little bit, kind of asked about this already, but did you ever work at other stores or, again, with anyone, and you were like, wow, how did this guy get a job here? How does this guy, he's just, whether it's just... lazy, just dumb, just obviously didn't want to work here.
Yeah, I mean, there have been a couple of guys. One at Northern Lights, and then the one that I told you about at West Broad, where, he was well-meaning, but did know a lot of things. Like, those two, I didn't hire them. I probably would not have hired them. But, I mean, yeah, I've had employees at most stores where it's like, how did you get here? You shouldn't be here. You don't know what you're doing.
Upper management wise, again, was there anyone that rubbed you the wrong way or you just didn't like, or again was maybe shady?
I don't know if there's anybody that necessarily rubbed me the wrong way. The only issue I had with GameStop upper management is once you get past the district managers, then it gets to the point where it's like, these guys very clearly do not work in the store. They don't know what it's like working at the ground level. They're very disconnected from reality. So they'll have, expectations that sometimes are just untenable because they just don't know what it's like. And you have that with pretty much any corporate job. People who work at the corporate level, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They get paid to, give arbitrary numbers and be like, go do these things.
Yeah. Over time, did store goals rise?
Yeah. Gradually, store goals continued to rise, and they've been rising. Apparently, the goals and the numbers are even higher now than when I was there. Pro memberships have increased in cost. They're now $25 a year, making it even harder for employees to get.
Were there days you were excited to go to work because person X was working, and then on the flip side, were there days you just didn't want to go to work because you had to work with person Y?
I wouldn't say that well, actually, no, that's a lie. Yes, working at Graceland, the assistant manager that, didn't make a very good store leader, he was probably the one where I would dread working with the most. And even then, it's not so much that I would, dread working with him. It's more just I kind of got to get through it. Versus at that store, one of my employees, a guy named Dylan, he and I almost became brothers for a little bit. Super cool guy. I loved working with him. I haven't talked to him in a while, but he was one of my favorites.
You talked about last episode, you got a limited number of hours. When people would call in, and let's say you had already worked your 40 hours, the week wasn't over, who's ever supposed to be there is sick. What? I'm sure there was absolutely no overtime allowed.
So it was either you try to find somebody to take your place if you can, or take their place. If that can't be done, then you work. I would work that shift and then have to cut elsewhere, like say get someone to take my Saturday shift and I just take Saturday off or work a half shift or something, or if say Zach was closing and it would be just me and him, then I wouldn't come in until like the last hour of the shift and he would just have to work by himself.
Were DMs pretty good about helping with that when someone was sick, or was it just a cluster?
When he could. It was kind of hard, especially towards the end, to get people to travel between stores, as we didn't have a whole lot of hours and sometimes there would be staff shortages. But yeah, if Mark could help get people, he would blast out emails, be like, hey, the store needs a closer for this day or something. Sometimes he would call people asking for help. He did what he could. And if the absolute worst push comes to shove, there's literally nothing else that can be done, then I would just work overtime and just tell Mark, like, hey, there's literally no avoiding it. I'm going to have to, work past my 44, because otherwise we would have to close the store, because I have no answers. That is the, absolute worst case scenario.
Yeah,
but,
and then, later on, would you get a lecture? Well, you should have done this on this day. No. Okay, so...
Mark was pretty chill.
Okay, good.
He was very much the kind of guy of, if you can give me a good reason as to why you're doing something, do what you got to do. So
good, because I just imagine there was those kind of messes sometimes. So what would help them out more if they paid current employees more, or if they hired more people? What would help them sell more, in your opinion?
See, the problem is, at this point, they've made so many poor business decisions. I don't think doing both of them would make a difference. Because yes, having higher paid employees means that they're more willing to try to meet those goals.
And stick around.
Yeah, and having more hours to give means you can have more people. More people means that you can dedicate your time more thoroughly to your customers. The problem is, GameStop has such an unbending, these KPIs are what matters. They're the end all, they're the be all. This is your job. This is your everything. You eat, sleep, live, and breathe, power up resin protections. And that is a huge turnoff to a lot of employees, and it is a huge turnoff to a lot of customers, especially now that they're increasing prices for shit. Like I said, power up has gone up by $10 after it had already gone up when I was there from 10 or 12 to 15. Protections had gone up in price while I was there. It's not sustainable. So I honestly don't think that there is anything GameStop can't do at this point to reverse course.
They're just screwed.
Pretty much. They're putting Band-Aids on a gunshot wound.
Was there any coworkers that made it less than a month from the time they were hired to the time they were let go?
I had a guy who we hired, and then within a week, he was like, so I'm actually moving to Washington or some shit. And we're like, why didn't you tell us when you were interviewing him? He's like, I didn't know. Okay, well, whatever. So yeah, I just had him you just stay with us until whenever is your last day and you move. Get, your experience, and I'll teach you everything that I can, kind of thing. Because I think he said he was going to try to get a job with one of the GameStops at where he was moving to.
Oh, yeah, that's a great way to start.
So he's like, I'll
the company.
I'll teach you everything I can, so at least then when you go there, you've got an edge. For
Any other coworkers you haven't talked about? Upper management we hit on. Did GameStop have market directors?
Yeah, probably. I never met them.
Never met them.
The highest I ever met was regional manager in terms of direct chain of command.
So actually, yeah, one more story again, and then we'll end it. Explain again when you became manager and you showed up and they were just firing the current manager.
So I was told, I was working at the Polaris Mall location, and Mark called me and he's like, hey, I want you to meet me at this store, at Northern Lights store, tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. or some shit. And this is when we still opened at 9. So I came there, and I, not realizing what was going on, just went up to the door to knock to try to get in, and they were in there having a meeting with Mark and the head of LP or some shit, and this other manager for her firing thing, and they saw me, and so she was now able to put a face to oh, that's my replacement. Which Mark was nice, but he came to the door and was like, hey, I kind of need you to stay in your car until it's time, so just go back, please. So I sat in my car for like 20 minutes while I waited for them to wrap up. And then he brought me into the store, showed me around, and be like, hey, so this is your store now. Congratulations, you're a store manager.
And why were they letting her go? Just because she didn't hit goals?
She was just bad at her job, from my understanding. That's what I was told.
So, yeah.
I don't know if there was more to it or
You don't
not.
really know all the details. Okay.
I did not pry. It was none of my business, and I didn't want to know.
On any of the GameStop screens where like you could see your store numbers, could you see other store numbers?
Yeah. I could look at any store and see how they were doing.
Were there ever times like you yourself were like out selling like in another entire store?
Oh, constantly.
Did it break it down individually at all, or just was it always?
You could be super granular. Like you could see how does your total store metrics compare, how does specifically your power up metrics compare. And yeah, I would constantly look at other stores and be like, cool, I'm beating this person, I'm beating this store.
And then was there ever a time you yourself were out selling an entire store and the entire store got like more foot traffic or that's
the West Broad store was one of the busier stores. I think it was like the 6th busiest store in the district or 5th. It was one of the like super busy stores. So yeah, there would be days where I myself would be out selling an entire of a slow store, just because.
What about like a couple weeks into a month? You yourself were like out selling a busier store.
I don't think I've ever had a time where I would be outpacing a store by myself or like anything other than the smaller stores. Maybe during the holiday season at like Polaris, because being a mall store, it's very much a holiday store. So the sheer volume of traffic that you get at a mall store during the holidays, it's easy to outpace a lot of stores.
Oh, okay.
The most common thing you would get is GameStop has their Pro Days, which are like Amazon Prime Days. And the biggest thing on Pro Days is to sell Pro memberships. And so it was always a fun competition to see who could get the most Pro memberships. And yeah, there'd be times where if I'm, having a particularly hot streak, I can outpace an entire store. But yeah.
Before we ended, any other weird coworkers we got to know about?
Not that I can think of. I think we've pretty much covered all of them, or at least all of the notable ones that could provide stories. I mean, I'm sure if I had thought about it, I could probably come up with an entire episode's worth of stories just from Zach. Like, he was a very interesting person.
Talk about him a little bit more then. Again, he was like above you in the beginning?
No, he was my assistant. Like, I was store manager, he was assistant store manager.
Okay.
He's an interesting guy. The first day that I got there to like help set the tone, his first introduction was, "Hi, my name's Zach. I'm better than you. Don't forget that." So, really fun guy.
Give us an idea, like, is he taller than you, shorter than you, his age?
He's shorter than me. He is a year younger than me. He comes to about here to me. Very, very Irish. Like, very red, curly hair.
Oh, okay.
He can grow a very bushy beard. Really fun guy. He is one of those guys that, like, dealing with depression, but he turns it into just super funny. Everything and anything can be a joke kind of things. So, always in a good mood, or at least tries to be in a good mood. We have tons of inside jokes between one another just from, the year of spending with each other, finding things that are funny.
Yeah.
There was a night that I was going to stay over, like, through the night to clean our back room because the back room was an absolute disaster. And we had, specifically, there was a supply closet that the manager before me had just kind of chucked shit in there. So it was just a disgusting pile. And kudos to Zach. He opted to stay with me so I didn't have to do it by myself. And we just spent the night until, like, 1 a.m. just cleaning and reorganizing the entire back room. Like, we literally gutted the back room, pulled it all out onto the floor, and reorganized it all. And he took it upon himself to be resident DJ and play music, blast music on his phone, and it was fun.
And your DM was cool with you guys using hours just to clean the place?
Yeah, we shaved hours elsewhere to make sure that it could happen.
Nice. When you were a manager, of all the people that worked below you, was Zach the best one?
Define the best one.
Like, if you could have your dream all-star GameStop store, you're the manager. Who's your assistant manager? Of anyone you ever worked with? Even when you weren't a manager, who's your assistant?
It depends on the location that we're working at. If it is a ghetto store, then Zach. If it is a nicer store, then Dylan. I would still have both of them there. Like, those two are the top two guys that I worked with. Those guys were experts They were fantastic. When they were on top of their game, they were better than me.
Oh, even if you don't want to give names and then like, let's say in this dream store you get 2 game advisors.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, even if you don't want to say their name, just where you worked with them at. But yeah, Zach and what was the other guy's name?
Dylan.
We'll just say that this dream store has 2 assistant managers. So you're 2 game advisors. Or 1 game advisor, 1 senior game advisor.
That is a good question. I've worked with a lot of people throughout the years. I had one employee at the Polaris Mall location. She was really, really good. She was really good at selling collectibles, especially. Like, she was our collectibles expert. Having her as senior guest advisor would probably be the winner there. I don't know about guest advisor. That'd probably be one of those. I would have to, like, sit down and make a list of all the people that I've worked with.
Okay.
And this is obviously not including any of the store leaders above me. Like, you know, most of the store leaders that worked above me when I wasn't a store leader myself were masters of their craft.
Let's just say that's store 4. You think you could like crush the goals regardless of what store you were in?
I don't know if I would say regardless of what store I'm in, because there are some stores that were just a lost cause. Like Northern Lights, that store was just a lost cause.
Because there wasn't a lot of traffic, or what was wrong with it?
It was a combination of there wasn't very high traffic, but also the clientele of that store, they wanted to get as much as humanly possible while spending as little as humanly possible. Like and granted, I probably shouldn't have done this. I would get rid of any game that was under like $5 because that's all people would want.
Okay.
Like,
let's just say, what was the name of that mall, Nicollet Mall?
Polaris Mall.
Polaris Mall. Let's just say the 4 of you are working there. You hitting every goal, crushing it?
I would have concerns about Zach shooting off his mouth sometimes. But yeah, no, we would destroy that mall.
All right. Yeah, I think it's a good way to end it.